Hey there, welcome to the Resonature podcast. I'm Kyle Denton in this musical woods. You ever taken a piece of grass and put it between your two thumbs and blew it like a reed and made some music with it? This is the episode for you if you're interested in plant sounds. We talk about the sounds that plants make, the way that plants hear, the harmonic tones within plants, the instrumentation. And I invited a guest on who's, there was a time in my life, a lot of people's life actually, at this particular moment in time where people's lives were changing. The trajectory is changing. And God phase shifted in the eternal friend to replace some other friends. And this is one of them, as Gabriel Peters from, also known as Slick Dissident. And one of the things that I wanted to make this intro on is because I really wanted to rep his work. His work has been so fascinating and mind-blowing to me over the last several years. And I really encourage you to follow the channel on YouTube, Slick Dissident. I'm going to link this below, but also the website, Slick Dissident. If you're interested in the enneagram, that is probably the master class to learn about the enneagram. So not only the enneagram, but Slick takes Plato's Symposium and puts the seats of the arrangements of the symposium into the enneagram, so you can learn not only about the enneagram, but you learn about things like Plato and the philosophy of Socrates, and you also learn about astrology. I mean, it's a really great way of stacking functions in learning, not just the enneagram, but astrology, how the enneagram represents an eternal act that is even on the world stage today. And another thing that's always been very interesting to me about Slick's work is what he calls the Tarot-Tories map. And so what he's done is he's taken the United States and he's mapped out all of the tarot cards around the United States. And it has a very, very accurate predictive power when it comes to the movement of the planets and so on, with the associations with the cards within the states themselves. It's really cool. You got to check out his channel. It's really fun. By the way, watch a video and then just tell yourself, I'm going to be coming back and watching this again. Every time you watch a new one, or every time you watch it again, it just unfolds more and more layers of his impeccable rhetoric. By the way, they say Socrates, he never wrote anything down, right? It was always Plato writing about what Socrates did. That's what I think is people are going to be doing for Slick's work too. They're going to be writing about it after the fact. And so get yourself acquainted with his work, and as well, I mean, it's really fun. It makes this realm feel really, really fun. And to me, it's just great to have, and an honor to call him a brother on this path. So without further ado, we'll get into the episode now. Resonant Plants featuring Slick Dissident. Ciao. Welcome to the Resonature podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Denton, and today's lesson is on the topic of resonant plants. I thought about this topic, and this is a class something that I wanted to do. I just wanted to talk about this topic back when I thought of the podcast title, Resonature. It was one of the first things I thought of. And so at that time, I strategically planned it out. This was several months ago, and I thought, I'm going to look at the calendar, and I'm going to find out the date of the peak of the meteor shower that comes from none other than the constellation that is immortalizing the instrument of Orpheus and Apollo and many other masters of the strings. And that is the stringed lyre or lyre. And this is none other than the Lyrid meteor shower. So I get this picture in my mind right now. What's going on up there, macrocosmically, is like the comic of Scott Pilgrim, where he's like he's shooting like lightning bolts out of his guitar, And that's kind of like what's going on right now, is that there's this like blasting of energy. That's the venue. That's the venue that we're in today. We are on stage of that venue, and we're blasting it out. And so we're going to be covering plant sounds. We're going to be covering the way that plants hear sounds. We're going to talk about harmonic ratios and plant form. We're going to talk about mythology and sirens and instruments and the way that the music comes from plant allies. Those are the etheric world, the plant kingdom. And so with me as a guest, and this was also part of the plan back in the 6 months ago when I thought of this, was to invite this guest on to weave this topic of this tapestry. And I've asked because he has the dexterity with at least 2 spiritual forms, which seem to me can be named in terms of measure and value. And these are both psychic principles, but they are shown and demonstrated in the practice of capoeira, which is an art that combines music, producing values such as tones in the music. Music made, by the way, with instruments that one can grow in their garden. So there's the plants again. And then it combines that with measure or the spatial awareness, physical movement. So a transcended musician of work and play, value and measure, qualities and quantity. Big old heart from my big old brother from Earth Mother, Slick Dissident. How are you doing, my man?
Oh, man. Big love and respect, Kyle Denton. I love you so much, brother. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, well, this is a really exciting topic, and I am so happy to have anything to offer for the new Resonature launch.
Right on.
Yeah, man.
Man, you're looking like a young man over there.
Yeah, I got a little more face than usual, don't I?
Yeah. Yeah, don't go in reverse on us now. You're going to be a teenager in a few years.
Yeah, it has been a long time since I've even seen myself like this. And it's kind of a, when you want to invite change, throw a curveball at the universe and see how it swings at you. So that's kind of what the strategy was here. And it's strange. I feel a little out of place when I think. I just feel out of place when I think. And that's kind of gives me a new foundation.
It's kind of funny because I think I heard you say this, but when you see a guitar player like really like doing that, it's like, I think you said it's like they're squeezing the ether out.
Yes.
Right? And so just by like maybe rubbing a bald chin, you're like, it's like you're trying to bring forth the thoughts to like grow out into your face, right?
That's exactly it. That is exactly it.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I didn't really prepare any questions. I just kind of thought that we could talk about, I had a couple of things that I thought would be fun to talk about in regards to plants and sounds. And like I said, the reason why I invited you is because you are, you're probably the only person that I know, and maybe even the best person that I know, that plays gourds and, all kinds of instruments that are made out of curcubits and plants and everything like that. So I guess I would love if you would start it off and just talk about maybe some of your experience with plants and resonance, what it means to you, and what's going on when you are singing, and maybe even like tie that into capoeira a little bit too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, when you mentioned doing the show, I immediately felt drawn to share a story about the first capoeira shaker that I ever made of my own. I wish I had brought it with me so I could show it to you, but it is very much correspondent to the curious little basket on all of the Mesopotamian art with these
Yes.
deified characters. They have a hand basket. Well, in capoeira, every berimbau player has what's called a kashishi, and the shape of it is identical. And it's pretty much the same thing if you ask me. And so the kashishi actually is just large enough to thread these 2 fingers through, and then you're holding a shaker basket while you're tamping and beating on the monochord of the berimbau. And so every movement out and in is catching a shake. So it has kind of a double time potential. For every stroke you're making is kind of a double hit on the
Yeah.
shaker. Well, uh, the seeds in the traditional shaker, I believe, are called Lágrimas de la Santa Maria, the tears of Saint Mary. But I believe it's a particular seed from a particular plant that I don't really know. I think it's something, maybe a mangrove, maybe. I don't know
Hmm.
if maybe, but it's an oceanic agricultural seed that is traditionally in the basket. But when you're not in Brazil making your kashishi, you got to make do and compensate with other seeds around here. And so I chose corn for my kashishi because I'm from Indiana. But the neat thing about my first kashishi I ever made, it's a wicker process. So you have to make the wicker moist and wet and pliable when you're
What
building it.
what kind of material is it? The wicker? Do you know?
I, I don't, I think there are grades of wicker, right?
Yeah.
There's like wide and thin, which is doable.
Right.
We were using a very, round kind of rope-like, uh, grade of wicker when we made ours, but the flat is better. I think the flat paneled wicker is actually a better, material to make. But one thing I learned that it is, pretty sure I'm remembering that it's not, you take a segment of your gourd that is gonna be the resonator chamber. So you're taking a hole out of the gourd, but you don't just throw that away. The puck you removed is gonna be the bottom for your kashishi.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that.
And so in a fun way, sometimes the missing parts of the gourd is still used in other parts of the instrument. And I'm pretty sure it's 9 holes that are drilled in that you begin to thread the wicker up to form the basket. And and I'm pretty sure my instructor said if you don't do 9, you have to do 7. That it has to be an odd variation because of the way that the wicker is going to form. But the way I was taught was with 9 holes around a circle. And at the time, that was nifty, cool. I'll remember that. But now I'm further along and I'm realizing in my symposium, I have 9 positions for 9 muses. And so when I look on the bottom of the kashishi, there is also a little seating map of the enneagram in my mind today. I didn't know that back then. So yeah, but also the reason why I had to tell you is Kyle, my Capoeira instructor, he was only giving this class on how to build your own on December 8th, which was the due day for the baby. And I had to plead and ask him, please, could you move it a little before or a little after? And he's like, there's just a lot of people signed up, Charlie. I don't think I can wiggle. So I ended up getting permission from extremely pregnant mama to be on the shortest string and go and make a kashishi on the due day of the baby with the phone right next to me, just in case, kind of like you right now. Force connected to mama.
Yeah.
And luckily, the baby was late and I had all the time I needed all day. But lo and behold, when I got done, still, if you could look at my kashishi, it's very pregnant in the belly. One side of my kashishi has got a big pregnant belly, and the other side's kind of straight like it should be. So I still have a big pregnant kashishi made on my baby's due date.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the one of the things that you mentioned was the tears of Saint Mary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or of Mary. And that reminded me of the another name for Salvia divinorum is Ojos de la Pastoras, which is like the feminine version of the shepherd. So it's eyes of the shepherdess. So it still conjures this like, Mary, Mother Mary type of imagery to it as well. But
It really does. Even Athena is gray-eyed Athena.
hmm.
And I think that these Lágrimas de la Santa Maria, They look like they're kind of obelisk, pearl-esque, whatever these seeds are. I have seen them. I wish I had the data point on exactly what plant grows out of those seeds. But yeah, they are kind of hazy-eyed, maybe like a blind seer,
Wow. Yeah.
or an oracle.
Yeah, that's a good sync for me because I'm actually planting seeds today. It was the first day I'm got a chance to plant some seeds too, so that's really cool.
Nice.
Hey, check this out. I wanna see if you can. I'm gonna play this for you now. Um, I just wanted to shift the DJ vibe over to this new song that I found, and it's a song that is by a plant called rhubarb, which is another one that comes up in the spring. So rhubarb's growing in the spring, and as it does, can you picture rhubarb? It's like big, and it's kind of got these big old leaves, and they spread out. And if you go up to a rhubarb, it's kind of squeaky. Like you can like move your hands along the leaves, and they're kind of squeaky. Well, as it grows, it like bursts upon itself, and it squeaks. And there's something that people can do to produce a lot of sound from a rhubarb. And what they do is they kind of like shock it or force shock it, where they put it into a really warm environment and it's completely dark, and it makes the plant bolt because it's like searching for light. And I'm gonna see if I could share this on my screen. This is the first time I'm doing this here, so let me know if you can. Okay, so this is not mine. This is from somebody here on SoundCloud, a massive popping rhubarb, forced rhubarb growing at DWS Farm. Then I'll have to say something like fair use. I'm just sharing. This is cool. We're using this for teaching. But let me know if you can hear this here. Oh, that's the sound. That's the sound from the computer here. Let me see.
Oh.
But if it's coming through, it'll come through. Let's see here. I'll just keep sharing from the computer. What the heck? Can you hear this?
Yes.
There's some comments down here that people put comments like, sounds like a bad beatboxer.
Yes.
I should call her. Sounds bad, folks. It's gross. It sounds kind of gross.
It does.
Oh, that's enough. But
wow.
Yeah. So the rhubarb making all that sound, it reminds me of something being like slurped down or something like that, like the the walrus on that's in Alice in Wonderland or something like that, just slurping down all the it's really something. But like that's a natural sound produced by a plant in the springtime popping up.
Wow, that was really, really like exotic sounding. You know, to some degree, I kind of think I might have been hearing horses' clogs, the clopping of horses, but not in a patterned way that you would recognize. It's like horses' hooves out of step. That's what it might have sounded like.
Yeah.
Like perfectly random somehow.
Wow. Yeah. Like, and also, like stuck in the mire, like in the never ending story or something like that, like,
yeah,
that's that trauma bond that everybody that's watched the TV's rolled into the, first grade or second grade, and everyone gets to watch the trauma bonding experiences together.
Absolutely. Wow. That is it. Totally mud hooves. It sounded like mud hooves, lost mud hooves. We have in Capoeira, we have a doctrine of signatures that we observe that I think you would really enjoy. There are many, many different rhythms, and different rhythms are kind of a communication from the band to the players, and also to the, to the students in the circle. But one of the rhythms has a very fun legend. It's called La Cavalleria, and it's kind of the rhythm of the cavalry. And it said that La Cavalleria should, in its original use, it should generally be initiated by the biggest birimbau, the big gunga, the bass. And the bass birimbau should be on lookout. It should have like the peripheral vision outside of the circle on what's going on who's coming and going in the street, so to say. And as long as the gunga is doing a good job keeping the lookout, you can count on them to switch into La Cavalleria rhythm to tell anybody who's not looking that here comes the cops. And so you can be watching the game, not watching the street. And something inside of the game is telling you that the cops are coming up the street, right? You don't have to be paying attention because the gunga told you what's going on beyond your purview. And so that rhythm it's a great rhythm. It's really catchy. And I think I discovered that you can play the Cavalleria to Bob Marley's song Exodus. And so I've found one of my rhythms that I can actually fuse into the music of Exodus with Bob Marley, and that's really fun. But I'm also the one time when I had to take my birimbau through TSA to travel, they were freaking out. As soon as I stepped into the line, everybody in the line was looking at me like, "Are you crazy? You think you're going to get on an airplane with that thing? This big birimbau looking like some sort of contraption of inexplicable purpose." I mean, everybody was looking. It was Denver International too, right? Very big airport. And by the time I did get to the front of the waiting line, all of the TSA guys had tapped each other on the shoulder and pointed me out. And so all the heads had like looked over, who's this asshole with a big gourd? And they're like, so, what you got there? This is called the birimbau. It's sometimes called the Brazilian banjo. And he's like, is it a weapon? And I said, of cultural resistance, it is. And he smiled. And he said, well, they probably want me to swab it. They want to take it over and test it, make sure it doesn't have chemicals or something. He's like, but I'll tell you what, why don't you just play me a song, prove that it's an instrument, and I'll let you go through. All right. So I strung that thing up in front of everybody, and all of the TSA guys at the airport are like, oh, here it goes, here it goes. And of course, the one appropriate rhythm that they should hear played by a birimbau at Denver International Airport, of all the rhythms that they deserve to hear.
Yes.
La Cavalleria.
Of course, yeah.
La Cavalleria.
Yeah, the horse. That's awesome, man. What a great story. That's great. So is it a weapon?
Yes. Let's go there. So my Capoeira instructor, he gave me a computer once, a hand-me-down computer. And there was only one document on the whole computer. It was some college kid's dissertation on which came first, the bow and the arrow or the twang pleasure that it distributes. Is it the need for food, or is it the need for good vibes that builds up the metabolism to make you want some more food? Does the monochord come before the bow? And I read the whole dissertation. I didn't come out with an answer. I didn't come out with like I'm more biased this way or that way. I just kind of came out with more appreciation for that standing in the both hand. But I think you'll dig another part that they brought up in the dissertation is same thing. Which came first, the shield on your left arm or the drum that you bang on for the music. Is the shield or the drum, which came first, the music or the battle? And we all know that musicians love to battle each other. So which is it?
Wow. You bring up, I think what you got down to is like what Pythagoras is, where Pythagoras is in time and philosophy and arts and math, is that here's Pythagoras who strikes a monochord, and that's his instrument of meditation. And he came up with the idea, like the story goes, Pythagoras, the guy, right, was hearing the smiths in the street, and they're probably making horseshoes of all things, right? And they were striking, and there's different sounds and different harmonics, and so he goes and he goes back to his bow, which is the monochord. It's just a string on a box, and bong, and then there's the sound, and then shifting, taking the bridge and shifting it a little bit, and now boom. Well, halfway there you got an octave. And so what he found was, in his, I guess what he's describing in the Pythagorean path, and the Pythagoreans in general, are this nexus between quantity, which is the amount of string that you have, and quality, which is the tone, and what the tone tells us. And so what the tone can tell also its relative position, and the same thing can be said about the math. And so nobody's ever asked, well, maybe people have asked, and maybe this dissertation is kind of asked in the same kind of way, as like, is the Pythagorean theorem and all the work of Pythagoras, is that just for the purpose of Aristotle, and then further on into quantitative measurements and so on, or was that taken at that particular time because they were so saturated in qualitative life? Everything was quality. Everything was God's. There wasn't the lightning flashes. There was the Zeusing, right?
Yeah,
as you said before, as you've mentioned, which is like everything was a verb, and so they needed to have the quantitative come forward. And so that's where we get these types of things. And so it makes me wonder, now that I'm in my studies of harmonics and the monochord, going, and also in my work as an herbalist, like, I have completely forsaken quantitative type stuff in herbalism. I really don't like talking about what constituents herbs have anymore. I don't even know if I believe that they exist. And also, it's kind of, there's a couple of researchers named, one was named Howard Hillman and one Gilbert Ling, and they've pretty much disproven some of the modern biological nonsense, which comes to this quantitative end, which is like, our cells have these receptors, and on this receptor there's all this activity going on, and we have this protein or sodium potassium pump that allows certain fluids to come in, and it's got to go through the certain gate on the cell, but nobody's ever seen that. And so what these guys did was they eliminated the cell membrane, and therefore the so-called gates or the channels of these things, and they were still able to see the sodium and potassium flowing back and forth. So in my mind, I'm just thinking more about, like, instead of explaining how something like yarrow has XYZ alkaloids and XYZ other chemicals, I just like to describe things in their qualitative manner or their tone, because to me that is where our cells are listening. And I also think that's where the plants are listening. That's the real receptor, is in the description of hot, cold, damp, dry, states that we can relate to in a qualitative sense.
Yes.
And so I guess that's my rant on qualities, tones, and Pythagorean.
I love it, man. I love it. Yes. Even between different singers, different musicians, even with two different people playing the same instrument, the qualities are, uh, will always be different. But I think that what is special is when somebody can emulate another person so well that something qualitatively is handed off. I have actually seen quite a few researchers who have assumed the tonality of their guru or the person who instructed them to such a degree that I have to stifle my suspicion that this is the first researcher's child, or this is the first researcher putting on an act and pretending to be a different person. And I have to stifle that in myself because I really don't believe that. That's just how it really appears. That this researcher's voice, mannerisms, word choice, and everything is being conveyed onto another person qualitatively, and they're taking it on and honoring it. I think they're honoring it, and they might. And what gets me is I don't know if that person even knows that they're carrying the likeness of their instructor. Uh, I'll tell you that I'm thinking about the one example is Michael Hoffman, excellent researcher.
Mm-hmm.
He has something of an acolyte or another researcher who's picking up the torch, and he goes by syncro-mystic is his name, and he sounds like a little younger Michael Hoffman, and it's so uncanny. But that's where the quality has been transmitted. And I don't even know if they realize it. I don't know if they joke with each other how much they sound alike. It might be unbeknownst even unto them. But that's yeah, I see that happen in quite a few places. I've seen people's quality be re-aspected by somebody who admires them, by an admirer, somebody who's genuine in their admiration, I would say.
That makes me think too. We can bring this back to plants and music too. But before I do it, the adage that flattery is the greatest, or imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I was just thinking last night too. I was looking up at the stars, and the moon was so beautiful, and next to the twins, and I was just thinking about the word flattery. And I was like, oh, that sounds a lot like flat earthery.
Yeah,
Imitation
man.
is the greatest form of flat earthery. So it's in there too. But
It is.
so, okay. Here's one of the things that people are always going to try to emulate, and that is the Stradivarius violin. Okay, so much so that there's even like heist and everything like that, where they try to get this Stradivarius and then reproduce it and sell it back. But this comes from the Stradivarius. Are you familiar with where they get the Stradivarius sound?
I don't
Okay,
know. Is it rosewood or is
it
that?
comes from the Norwegian spruce, and it was kind of a secret. It was kind of a secret for Stradivarius. He's a Italian, what's the word? Luthier, violin maker. And so he goes up into the northern Dolomite region in northern Italy. And in this part of Europe, this is where there is like some sort of interesting ice age cataclysmic activity that has been observed from like Otzi the Iceman. They found Iceman up here in Bolzano region, and that's in the same kind of area. And so he goes up there and he starts listening to the trees, and he can hear, and is maybe like knocking on the wood or something like that, and he can hear the tonality in the trees. And so there's a quantitative scientist now wanting to reproduce this and thinking about this. They say, okay, well, maybe there was this period of time where there was this ice age where the tree, instead of growing, this much one year and then this much the next year and this much the next year, it was like this much one year and then this much one year and then this much one year and this much one year. And so it is keeping its vitality, but it's super, super, super compressed and super dense.
Wow.
And these particular trees have, this is where the greenspeak comes in that I love it. They have a lot of resin. They have a lot of resin. They resonate. They're resonant.
Whoa.
They're resonant trees. And so, yeah, that was kind of the some of these trees are protected now. And it also reminds me of the story of Sadaharu Oh, who is a famous Japanese baseball player. And he was one of the best of all time. He was like the leading home run hitter of Japan. And he was famous for his flamingo stance. He would stand with a bat with one foot, his leading foot up, and then he would swing. And he did that.
Like,
So are you familiar with that guy?
well, it's like Daniel LaRusso of baseball.
Exactly. You know, he used to fall back on his hips and come in early, and he had a powerful swing. But he started training with Aikido and what's the other one? The samurai. He started training with Aikido and a samurai sword,
Yeah.
and using a samurai sword to cut, as flat as he could. And so they said, just bring your foot up. And so there is like this novelty martial arts kind of thing to it as a baseball player. But because he was so good and so famous, they let him go into the woods wherever he went, into these old growth forest, and he would bring like a Shinto monk who would stand on the tree and put their ear next to the tree and be like, is this the one? Is this the one? Is this going to be the Stradivarius of Sadaharu O? And they would harvest that tree
Oh my
and make his
gosh.
baseball bats with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What art craft. What fascinating art craft. That is so fun. That is super fun. I've never heard that story. That is a great story. Man, I am totally gonna look into that. Well, a couple thoughts. A while back, it dawned on me that the word for Scaligerian is a form of history, Scaligerian history. It's kind of an entire dynasty that has history locked down because they controlled the supplies that make books at large for a very long time, that family. But the word Scaligerian, Kyle, I think it is encoding also the word dendrochronology.
Hmm.
Scala is the scales of time. Allegorian is agriculture.
Hmm.
Agrarian, scale agrarian. And so, and I don't think Scaligerian was a thing in the time of what we think of dendrochronology being used. But I'm sure they used dendrochronology way before we're told it was official. You know what I mean? The
Yep.
reading of tree rings must be older than what is documented, trademarked, regulated by standard. So, yeah, that was a thought. The dendrochronology kind of encodes a Scala agrarian.
Wow. Yeah, the auguries that you could find.
Uh-huh.
I always think of unfortunately, the ash trees are all dead. If you come across an ash tree that's still up, and you can, the bark is peeled away, you can see all of the emerald ash borer movement in there. I always thought, wow, what the hell are those guys speaking about? There's got to be
Yeah,
it looks like characters. It looks like a little language. And it is. In some way, you could probably determine from the path of the center outwards why the humidity that day, for example.
great call. Great call. You know, uh, S.B. Alger, a long time ago, he played a short clip, quite a long time ago, of a guy who had taken acoustic measuring devices and wrapped them around a great many trees in a forest and recorded them all slowly and subtly, and then took the recordings home and then kind of streamed them together and played them all at once, and was actually able to pick up these fascinating little rhythmic sequences amongst multiple trees in a forest, like essentially a sample of one grove. And when SB Alger, and I think they sped it up also. They didn't just play it back. They played it back in compressed time. And when I heard it, I immediately was convinced I was hearing samba rhythms, which is basically the it's kind of a, but the that was there. That was there. And I was hearing it, and I was very excited because in Capoeira, that's the legend of where the samba comes from. Where did samba music come from? Came from the woods. industrialists want you to think it comes from a train, but I think it's the woods making fun of the train.
Wow. That's that what you're describing there is if you were to take a rhythm like that and then speed it up even more,
Uh-huh.
that's where a tone comes from.
Right.
So a tone can be reduced into a rhythmic pattern that can also be reduced, like that's audible, like you just described, that can be reduced even further into the sound of the trees, which is subatomic or sub-audible, I should say. And
Yeah.
this reminds me of like some work that I saw. I can't remember where I saw it. This guy named Bass Forge, and he found that the sound of a whale, when you slow it down, it's like the sound of an elephant, and the sound of an elephant, when you speed it up, it's the sound of a monkey. And it's like all
Wow.
of these animals had similar sounds, and it's just that the rhythm within the tone itself is a little bit different. And so it's
So
kind of like each one have their own little dance, you know?
totally, it's like a Mendelbrot set of zoology through sound and scale.
That I'm thinking now of this. I'm going to bring up this Wikipedia page. This is um, the page is called Plant Bioacoustics, and it refers to the creation of sound waves by plants. And so what they're finding, this is not only the sound that the plants are emitting, and it's not just the the of the slop getting it on in springtime in the rhubarb patch, but it's also these subsonic waves that and so not only that, but they change according to this page. They change the plant's chemistry, and I would like to say the qualities of the plant. And their nectar when they hear particular frequencies. So, like when uh, a night pollinating moth comes near this evening primrose, for example, it changes.
Mhm.
But it wouldn't do that if it was like a bumblebee or something else. And so
Oh,
I looked into how they studied it, and basically what they did was they hooked up a speaker, and they found the frequencies of these animals or these buzzing, and they buzzed it, and it sure enough it changed the chemicals, it changed the chemistry, it made the flower sweeter, in other words, and it made the
wow.
flower from a qualitative standpoint, it was like the right vibe. It was like, hey, there's somebody at the party that we can like say this joke to and laugh with, right? And that we don't have to close ourselves down and wonder if this guy's a Fed or something like that. And and that's the same thing what these are doing. And so the 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 thing that I'm curious about, and I would uh, I would question in the experiment is, okay, some of these sounds that these animals are making are actually not just the virtue of their wings flapping, and we know this from uh, what's his name, the Russian scientist Dmitriev, something like that. I can't remember his name. Gosh, I wish I would have wrote it down. He studied the levitation acoustics within bumblebees. So
Yes.
from an engineering standpoint, a bumblebee can't get off the ground. It's like, putting a little dinky little like helicopter, one of those crazy dunce hats on a bumblebee and trying to get it off the ground. But instead, they're resonantly, they have a resonant cavity that produces a levitation based on their frequencies, and with that, they could shift their frequency to their surroundings. And so I also wonder about that part of the study, like how much sound isn't just the audible compression of air, but it's the vibe, and it's also the vibe that comes from the bee, the vibe that comes from the levitation of the bee, and so on.
Yes. Oh man, I love this. You know, one of the Capoeira mestres in my lineage, he had his students come up and they asked him, "What's your favorite team?" And he says, "I don't share that. I don't share that." They're like, "No, come on, Master. Come on, tell us who your favorite team is." He's like, "I won't tell you my favorite team, but I will tell you their colors." Like, okay. He's like, "Black and yellow." And everybody's like, "See, I knew he loved Argentina. I knew it was Argentina." Back in the day, I think Argentina wore that color. And everybody thought they knew what the mestre was talking about. Generations later, his students picked up, oh, he was talking about bumblebees. He wasn't talking about soccer. He was talking about his favorite team in the world. He was talking about bumblebees. But still, his lineage wears black and yellow. That's still one of their signature uniform dress codes. That's really beautiful. And I love that there's the element of the joke is everybody assumed competition, and he meant cooperation. He really meant cooperation, and that's why you can count on that's what he meant, because that's in the vein of purpose for the mestre to be talking more about cooperation, not about competition. That's why in the roda it's play. You don't fight capoeira, you play capoeira. Yeah, and I love that. I kind of love that.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, you had something? Go ahead, share it.
Well, at the Elementals gathering, I am very excited, Kyle. I'm super, super determined to harvest some bamboo. And I asked our buddy Topher if he's got any bamboo. He doesn't have any on hand, but he knows where I can track some down. So when we get together at the Elementals, I think we need to go chop some bamboo together and carry some water and chop some bamboo.
My heart is filled right now because are you telling me you're going to be going to the Elementals?
Yeah, buddy.
Yes.
Yeah, buddy.
Yes. I am so excited. I didn't think you were going to make it.
Oh, it's got to happen. The inaugural meetup.
Yeah.
It's all been building up for so long. It's so exciting.
My topic, I don't want to spill the beans too much here. I'll kind of, since we started with beans, I'm not going to finish here with beans. We'll do a little bean break here. And since we talked about, there's that. And we talked about Pythagoras. Okay. My topic, my class is called, gosh, Kyle, what's the name of the class? Belief system of plants.
Yeah.
Harmonic ratios in etheric life. And I've been studying a lot about this from the work of Hans Kaiser, and who is a German, I don't know, polymath, typical German polymath kind of 1920s kind of guy, right? and so he developed it. I'm going to share this with you, and I wonder if you can see this here on the screen.
Yeah.
So what we see here is an example of a tonal sound image of a plant. And so what he's done and what he's noticed and what I'm doing and continuing in my work is finding harmonic ratios that relate to the patterns within the arrangement of the leaf or the arrangement of the stem or within the leaf itself. So if you could say something like the stem, or this main part of the stem, represents the fundamental octave, or if it's a monochord, that's just striking the string without anything else interfering. And then these first branching patterns would be relative third or relative fifth. And when you put these all together, then you start to hear harmonies and tones. And when you hear relative an octave, or the fundamental with a relative third, or the major third and the major fifth, you get a chord. And so this is like, it's almost like for the musician's ears who's aware of the precision of music, when I'm just imagining because I don't have that. I've never been formally trained in music.
Mm-hmm.
So Bach, to me, when I listen to Bach or Mozart or Beethoven is my favorite, I hear something beautiful and I hear something wonderful. But I know that for the learned, for the initiate, that there's something bigger. There's something deeper. It's like you chose this part right here to represent a, a disharmonic, just to bring it back into harmony over here. And I'm finding myself I'm initiating myself into that category of symphony with the plants. And I'm just like, wow, holy smokes. God must be like a big, huge lover of music to be able to hear, to be able to see this harmonic patterns within these plants.
Yeah,
And one of the
buddy.
things that I think is super cool is that I'm learning about harmonic patterns, and so the fundamental, or let's just say the 1-to-1, like it's you hit the string and it makes one vibration, right? You put that in half.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have an octave higher, and now that's two vibrations for every one. Okay, when you do that to 5 times, you make 1/5 of the sound, or 1/5 of the string. That makes the third. And so if it was C, it would be C, D, E, and that is also known as the sextone, the third, because you have when you put them together, you have a generative tone. Now the the sorry the what's it called? Fractionality of the waveform looks like 5/4 or 5/4 of a ratio. So in other words, you have one more, you've generated one more. So uh, I just love this because this particular type of ratio or harmonic is not found in the harmonics of crystals. You don't find the pattern of 1/5 in the generation of form of crystals. You find it
Wow.
in etheric life, though. It first comes into the harmonic world in etheric life, and that's why it's called the sex tone, because it is the generative quality of life, and thus it seeks to know its its creator. It longs to strut. It's like that's why plants grow up, and that's why they bloom so beautifully, because they're like, hey, we're gonna die. Crystals are like, I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna sit here in the earth for the rest of my life. So so
Wow, Kyle, that is awesome.
So that's kind of what I'm going to be presenting about in the elementals gathering, and I have a fun topic on that. But yeah, the harmonics found within plants, and yeah, things like that.
Man, that is really, really powerful. Uh, the 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 third yielding a sextone, it reminds me of how the Greeks didn't have a digamma.
It's exactly what I was thinking too. Go on though.
It's yeah, and so instead of giving whatever is in the position of 6 in their alphabet, instead of giving it its own name or even identifying it explicitly, instead they gave it a almost like they're using uh, protective implements to refer to it, and they named it instead of its own name. They just named it. That's twice 3 over there. And so the name for 6 is twice 3. And there's clearly powerful superstition at hand. But that's what I think of when you said that the third yields the sextone.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's really good. That's super fun. And that, that deviation is in the ethereal and not in the crystal kingdom. The 6 position in the symposium is that mysterious empty spot. It's the Bowotes constellation is a great void, but that's really neat that you're tuning into that ethereal before crystallized form of it. Oh man, I'm so looking forward to your presentation, Kyle.
Yeah, man, me too. This is oh man, you just made my day hearing that you're going to be there. This is great. I hope
Yeah.
that some people that are listening here are like, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. I should. Okay, I'm going to come now. Hey, if you
Rally
do,
round the family and bring a pocket full of shells, y'all.
right? Totally. If you're going to buy a ticket, use Tippy Canoe, all caps, in your in the checkout, and it'll kick back a little money to me.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, are you familiar with? Of course you are, but I'm going to share this one here. The quaking aspen.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
I just recently learned some things about the quaking aspen.
What'd you learn?
Well, I was applying to a farm out in Colorado called the Aspen Moon Farms. And so in my correspondence with them, I was totally nerding out, going above and beyond in my research. And so I was choosing poetic terminology to tell them how eager I was to come out and work at their farm. And so I was trying to use the word quaking poetically in my letters with them, because it was like, if they know aspens, then if I use the word quaking, then they'll know that I know aspens. I was trying to dog whistle some aspen knowledge.
I think that's what the aspens are doing too. There's this so the quaking aspen, for those who are not familiar, the way that the leaf is shaped, it's like a kite. So the leaf stem comes up and then it just hangs right on. So the leaf can just like move all around like this, and they knock against each other. And it's one of the only audible plants that there is, and it's it's powered by the wind. It's a woodwind, and and the sound of the quaking aspen it produces a tone which has a quality, and to me and my discernment of that, I feel like there's almost like a nervousness to it. It has this nervous look to it. And so this is actually something that, like, if you can use the bark of the quaking aspen and make a tincture or a tea that's really helpful for a non-specific anti-inflammatory. It's got a lot of the stuff that aspirin's made out of, allegedly, and everything like that. But it's bitter, and it has this way of just like relaxing people into their body. I always feel like bitters in Ayurveda, the flavor of bitters is described as the combination of the elements of air and ether. So when I taste bitter, I imagine this centripetal movement of ether coming into a small and center point into my body, and just like into a small stillness, and then back out again. So that's what bitters do. They move things into the center and then they move them back out and kind of decongest and decompress. But there's this story that shows the relationship between the aspens and their other family members within the genus of the aspen, which is Salix. So it goes like this: once upon a time, Coyote is the trickster. Okay, you gotta have, if it was just Roadrunner, no one would watch. You gotta have Coyote coming in, getting the super rocket, and blowing it off the side of the cliff or whatever. So Coyote's the trickster. He comes in and he says, climbs up. He looks up to the top of this gigantic tree. It's the biggest tree in the forest, and he sees the trembling of the leaves, and it's a cottonwood tree, and there's little delicate cottonwood seeds falling down like snow, and it's June. He says, okay, well, that's interesting. I wonder if I can get a Christmas present. He goes up to the top of the tree, and he's looking for an eagle nest or something like that. He can eat the eagles. He can eat and don't worry if coyotes don't climb trees. It does in the story. So he's up there on the top of the tree, and the eagle comes back and flaps and pushes him off, and he falls. Boom, 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 branch, head, branch, boom, splat on the ground. And when he gets up, he shakes off his head and he falls backwards again because he's fallen down a hill. And when he tumbles down the hill, he goes splat against the side of a quaking aspen. He says, whoa. And he looks up at the quaking aspen, and he's got his hair on the back of his neck and he's starting to shiver a little bit because he's cold from falling down and rolling in the dewy grass, and he shakes himself off again, and he realizes, oh my gosh, I'm on a hill, and he keeps falling backwards and falling backwards and falling backwards again, and goes boom against a willow tree. And at this point, when he splats against the willow tree, he hears the sound moving of the wind moving through the willows, and he thinks, "Oh, wow, I'm finally relaxed. I finally can think of a poem or something like it." And he shakes himself off, and he loses his balance again and falls into the river. So, so this is a story that's encoding the geography. The cottonwood lives at the top. The aspen live in the middle, kind of near the
Wow.
water, but not on the river. And the willows live on the river. And so when you're up scouting and you're up on the top of the mountain, you're looking for water, you look for the shimmering leaves, you look for the lunar-esque flow, and that will deliver you to where the water is. And you just got to try not to slide down there when you go. But it also is encoding this ancient secret about the willow leaves, which is said that the muses, or at least one particular muse, whose name was Heliconian, the Heliconian muse, which was named after the Helice or Helis, or the nurse muse of one of the nurse muse nymphs, the lesser muse of Zeus, and who bears the willow and carries the willow and is there with the willow. And so it's the sound of the willows that produce this sound of like pleasure. It seems to like the muses are there. Something's like, I can write my poem. I'll just bring my journal under here. Whereas with the
Yeah.
aspens, it's like, I should keep moving. I'm not quite at the water yet. There's something
Right.
I need to continue on in my journey. There's still a little frazzleness there. So that's the audible of the willows and those that, yeah.
I love that. I love that. That is so glorious that the story uh, can instill topographic wisdom to somebody who's trying to find their whereabouts on the landscape. That the types of trees can tell you what you're looking for, where to go. That's beautiful. When I was a kiddo, we had a weeping willow tree, one of the most epic, there's a lot of them are epic, but this one was really epic. And some of its willow branches, kind of vines, dangles, they were perfectly positioned. You could just get a running head start off of this little dirt cliff, jump off the cliff, grab the willows randomly every time, and swing across a little creek and land on the other side. And we do this time and time again, and it was so beautiful and magical and fun. Uh, but as a child, I would never think, oh, willows grow by creeks. But I happen to know from experience they grow by creeks. That's the best place to have them, so you can swing on the branches.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's
Wow, that's
really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, what a blast from the past that must have been, man.
uh, Also, tell me the name of the muse one more time.
um, let's see here. It's the Heliconian willow muse.
Heliconian Willow
Yeah, it's
Muse.
let's see here. I'm gonna look it up. It's from the name derived from Helice, or Helis. That's
Yeah.
the nurse Zeus, or Helice, or I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
Um, and Orpheus carried Willow with him when he went to the underworld, apparently.
Nice.
So there's also that symbolic aspect as
Maybe
well.
he knew he was going to have to swing over some obstacles.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, it's the river Styx. You got to forget. I'll just swing over that one.
That's right. That word helicone, it makes me think of the word halcyon, which it is a very muchly played with concept. I think it's in some contexts it relates to an iceberg. Halcyon might mean iceberg, but I think there's a beautiful type of bird that is a halcyon bird. I'm not sure if it's a hummingbird, but it is gorgeous. It has a really beautiful uh, kind of hummingbird looking design, the halcyon bird. And there's some poetic reference to halcyon days, but I'm not sure. I didn't read that book. I shouldn't throw it around if I haven't read it.
What is your I just want to change the subject real quick. What is your about a year ago, you and PK, one of our brothers in the Grand Whiteboard Brotherhood, had been doing a deep dive into the meteor showers and what they represented. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to this meteor shower that we're, in the middle of right now. It's about a 2-week meteor shower. It's a pretty long one. The
Yeah.
Lyrid meteor shower. What is a meteor shower in your opinion? And what could be significance in the Lyrid constellation in particular?
Oh, wow. Wonderful, wonderful question. Um, I do not know what the meteor showers are. I do know that the consistency of their patterning is so um valuable. It has given me permission to really let go of the heliocentric model, because I cannot consummate a heliocentric movement and regular meteor showers like clockwork also. I can't make those two meld. And so, for one thing, I think meteors are proof against the heliocentric model. That's kind of fun. I myself, I'm more of a Tycho Brahe kind of cosmology, which does have more fidelity to what's up with these meteor cycles. It also, Tycho Brahe may have explained why Mars is an exception to all planetary behavior and patterning. Tycho Brahe might have some of the components we need to solve that mystery of Mars and its 22-year and its 7-year cycles that have a bump in these 7-year repetitions
Hmm.
regularly. So yeah, I'm kind of a Tycho Brahe. So I guess what I'm saying is meteor showers have given me a gateway or a bridge to step into more of that Tycho Brahe geocentric. Might not be the perfect way to say it either. Might be a big nothing in the middle.
Flattery. How about
Yeah,
flattery?
the flattery of Tycho Brahe's system. Yes, has taken me in. It soothes my biases a little more. But uh, I also, I think it's fascinating that we are expected to believe that meteors are only valued by astronomers in the past century. That is some of the most foolishness they could ever try to pull off on folks. These meteor showers, I think they have been sacred, way above and beyond anybody's appreciation to the priest class, to the clerics. I think the clerics have been keeping the system in play for a long time because I can find it in mythology. I can find the movements of these radiants that are very dynamic. It's not like it's just staying in one place for a few weeks. That's not what's happening. This is a light show moving like a logos, like a focal lens for the zeitgeist. And it's actually in progress from one egregore onto the other egregore, and it implies that a movement towards the next station or constellation, so to say. So yeah, whatever the meteor showers are, um, uh, I believe it is Hegel who said you can actually tell the intensity of meteors by the taste of that year's vintage.
Mm.
And whether that's true or not, I think even if it's not true, he's still saying something. I don't know what, but I think he's still laying a frame for an understanding. Whether you can taste the meteor power intensities or not, I still think he's saying something that every wine is keeping a record of this pollination, of this endocrine ventilation system, maybe. And if the priests can run us through cosmodramas on a regular cycle epigenetically for hundreds and hundreds of years unnoticed, then I think we should start looking up to the histamines that give us cause to respond, to give a rise to causality. And I think the meteor shower patterning, uh, I think it's some of the highest uh, uh, astronomical value for us to where to look at what time of year for the signs and the symbols to get magnified onto the masses.
Oh, wow. That's so brilliant. Also, imagine drinking some wine with Hegel, right? Is that so is that who it was, right? Hegel,
I
right?
think so. I
So
think so.
so now in the common parlance, we say, I heard it through the grapevine. So what does that mean? That means hearsay. That means hearsay. So what is heard it through the grapevine? Where do we get that? Well, some people say, well, it's because during the Civil War, that's when telegraph lines started. And so they would run one telegraph line from one tree to another. And so they kind of mucked up the place looking like grapevines growing all over the place. Or maybe because that they put these lines up, the grapevines started growing on them. Or also maybe because the workers in the field that are actually in the vineyards kind of work, like I'm working on this side and you're working on this side. And we're like, hey, did you hear about, Jerry down the line there? His wife was like yelling at him on the way to work today. So it's hearsay. And so it's in the record as a hearsay against the backdrop, the cosmic backdrop. But is it something that we should include on the record? Jurors, you should not hear that. Put the wine back. That's kind of the idea. Is like, well, we got the information. So what are we going to do with it? I think that's awesome. So there's another plant, resonant plant metaphor to weave into that one right there. That's cool.
That's
man.
very fun. Okay, your inspiration, wouldn't it be cool to drink wine with Hegel? That makes me think, okay, what if you set up an academic experience for people to study and research? Let's just go with Hegel. And we're going to start with his early works. And in that first part of the study, we're only going to drink wine from that year. And then when we move into his later works, we're going to be drinking wine from the years of his later works. Wouldn't that be far out to be drinking the wine with Hegel while you're studying backwards in time? You're taking on the meteor shower pollination of the year that you're focusing on in your research.
Yeah, it also makes it makes you wonder if that's the case. If meteor showers are some sort of, cosmic seed that not only helps with the growth of life and it makes me, I've always wondered, like, why does this plant, when in my town in Wisconsin, actually bloom at the same time in Missouri or in Florida or in it's the same time. We have a very different growing seasons, but for some reason, some of the plants that are it's in certain parts of the year that I'm like, wow, we're kind of matched up here. Now there's other times that they're not, so it's not fallible. It's like, it's not foolproof as far as that my theory goes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it would make you wonder that if there's something in the zeitgeist that's available in those years to the people who are imbibing on, and this is one of the things I think about plant medicine, is that I always say that they give us what we need at the time that we need them, and that's because, from a bioregional or herbalist standpoint, they share our environment. They share our cosmic environment. They share the 5G or whatever and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But also the collective, stuff that's going on here too. So I also think of that, collectively, there could be some interesting vintage. With Hegel. Man.
I love in one of our herb walks, you mentioned that, and it immediately gave context to something that I don't think I would have realized, was like my cucumbers were prolific one particular year. And I had no explanation until you mentioned that. And I was like, oh yeah, it's like my cucumbers knew that my birthday gift was going to be booze. They knew I was going to need all this alkalining. And it's almost like the cucumbers were a good friend giving me advice, like, hey, Bo, be careful, watch out. Come August, take it easy come August. Be careful.
Yeah. Lots and lots of hydration.
Yeah. That's really fun. Do you want to share? Can you share any of the images that I sent from Telegram? Do you want to share the one about the magical properties of celery? I'll kind of start a little story about
Oh,
this.
I got it. Yeah.
Okay. So, very recently, I reread Plato's dialogue, The Gorgias. And in the Gorgias, Socrates is being extremely overtly obtuse, and he's making repeated allusions to politics and or rhetoric are much like cookery. And there are a few other arts that he also incorporates in the likeness to politics or rhetoric, but cookery was the one he really pings on. And for me, that was it was kind of fascinating timing because I've recently locked in a job working in some food industry. And so I just find it so rewarding to kind of take Socrates' obtuse little observations and hold on to them for a while before you make any decisions one way or the other. Kind of sit with it. And eventually, you'll kind of catch on to what he's talking about. So, I'm working in food prep, and my coworker, I'm over there chopping on some celery. My coworker says, I just love celery. It just reminds me of all things summer and beautiful and fresh and the smell. And I said, I love celery too. It reminds me of Lucky Charms. He says, what? Lucky Charms? I said, yeah. And I take my knife and I chop a little cross segment and I hold it up and I say, it's green moons. It's not blue moons. Look, it's green moons because a cross segment of celery looks like a crescent moon. And he says, and then he kind of smiles. He's like, yeah, all right, okay. And then I said, and even the word celery is almost the name of the Greek goddess for the moon. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? I said, Serena. Serena is the name for the moon. He says, no, it's not. That's the name for mermaids. He really does not want to agree with me. And I said, don't you know? Mermaids sing to the moon, fool. He says, who says mermaids sing to the moon? I looked at him and I said, Quando a lua brilhar, depois do sol esconder, sadear canta do mar, oiaia, angole do venha ver. This song about the mermaids is a singing of the moon. They're singing to the moon. It's in the Capoeira song that we commemorate the song of the mermaids, the sereias. And so he's kind of smiling and laughing. And as I'm sitting there and I'm singing the song, I look down on my cutting board and I look at the shape of the celery and I look at the tail on the celery is in the shape of a mermaid, Kyle. And the full vision comes to me all at once. Like, celery is on a rock, right? Celery root is a big, gnarly rock. Mm. And then when the moon is full, all of those lovely branches come up to sing praise on high. They get vertical and erect, and they band together like a sorority of sisters, and they sing praises to the high energies of the moon. Yeah, wow, you nailed it, man. That celery is also so good for the kidneys. Like, it's a great lymphatic herb that has such a profound effect on the waterways of the body too. So wow, there you have it. Like, it is it is singing to our waterways, to our kidneys, to our lymphatic system. And you probably heard that, like,
you lose more calories from chewing celery than you get from eating it. As if like this is the quantifiers, right? These are the we can say quantifiers and qualifiers. I could also say lumpers and splitters. Right? So here's the splitters. They split everything up into you're going to lose this amount of units that you need to burn, and don't cry any tears here on Dune, and that kind of thing, right? And
I love it.
And but what are calories, right? They're units of some sort of burning measurement. That's all Martian talk. So, but people still eat celery anyway. So yeah, it does have that nourishment to the water of the body. Love it. That's a great graphic.
So yeah, so I went home and I was kind of, I could tell there was more here to find. So, I looked up Serena in some of her mythological uh, history, and I'm just going to read a little excerpt that was probably too small to see in the print there, but this is from the Greek mythology. I'm just going to read this paragraph real quick. Gaia, angered about her children, the Titans, being thrown into Tartarus following their defeat, she brought forth the giants to attack the gods in a war that was called the Gigantomachia. When Gaia heard of a prophecy that a mortal would help the gods to defeat the giants, she sought to find an herb that would make them undefeatable. Zeus heard of that, and he ordered Selene, as well as her siblings, Helios and Eros, who are sun and dawn, not to shine. So 3 elements were ordered not to shine: Selene, the sun, and the dawn. So moon, sun, and dawn did not shine. This probably resonates with a lot of the electric universe cosmology in a lot of ways. I think the Gigantomachia is just electric universe to the max. Okay, so, and then it says, so he ordered Selene, Helios, and Eos not to shine so that he could harvest all of the plant for himself. Selene's participation in the battle is evidenced by her inclusion in the Gigantomachia frieze on the Pergamon altar. That's a big deal, that there's a mermaid celery goddess on the Pergamon altar. That's a pretty big location to be found. Fighting against giants next to her siblings, Helios and Eos, and with her mother, Theia, in the southern frieze. And then it says, Selene gallops side saddle in advance. Kyle, only mermaids can ride side saddle. They don't have legs to split. She has to ride side saddle.
Yeah.
That is so strange that they're not talking about her as a mermaid. They're saying she has to ride side saddle. We have the cipher that she's a mermaid. She can't split her legs to ride a horse, right? That detail is somehow consummating our suspicion. Just pointing that out. And then she also wears a woolen undergarment and a mantle. And additionally, on a rain guide for a chariot, a goddess thought to be Selene with a crescent and veil over her head is depicted, who stands with Helios on a gate tower and tries to repel attacks of snake-legged giants. So Celery and the mermaids are anti-snake-legged giants. I don't know. Just some interesting details. But I love that side saddle part. The side saddle part was like, yeah, I felt like I was onto something.
Side salad, maybe. Celery on the side salad.
That's it. That's totally it. Little potato salad. She went up to Ireland.
Well, yeah, great find, man. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Sirens. My wife is Serena, so I always think of and I knew her as a singer. Like that's what, like, I don't know if
Oh,
you knew this
yeah.
about her, but she was a pop star. She was a pop singer in
That's
Italy.
right. That's right.
And and if she ever listens to this, she'll be like, "Oh, please." But but she was pretty good. She was good, and she was famous, and she was opening up. She opened up for The Cure once in the Square of Rome. I mean, that's like a pretty big. Like
Whoa.
she was a
Whoa.
MTV pop star. And so, yes, I went to the Mediterranean on a goddessy, and
Yeah, buddy.
and got snared, and that's it. That's how it goes.
She got her sailor.
Yeah, I got my sailor shirt on. It's funny.
Totally.
So yeah, and I was just mentioning in our Telegram chat that I was just there, and the sirens
Right.
are like nino 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 nino, and it's a square wave, and so what it is like C with a diminished fifth, so C D E F G F sharp, C to F sharp,
Wow.
nino 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 nino.
Wow.
So there's in there there's this uh the what can be the foundations of the tritones, which is like danger. This is something that people recognize as in the sound of danger, and I think that there's something also mathematically and even just like magical about these particular sounds together. But it's a square wave. It's not the wailing sirens of, like I said, our big fat American fire trucks, and which is this is what the sirens would actually ride on side saddle if they were if the cavalli were, Neptune's horses were coming in on the crest of waves, they would be on this. So I was like, wow, I wonder if these square waves, nino, 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 are kind of like canceling out, in the story of the Argonauts, Orpheus is there, and one of his roles is to help navigate away from the sirens, right? And
Yeah.
to help them know where they are. And that's what the sound Nino Nino helps. Actually, it helps with directionality. Help people understand if a truck is coming towards them or leaving behind them easier than the Doppler effect that you have to have more time to decipher with the wailing sirens. And so I don't know. I was just like, I wonder if this is some new technology over. It's only in Europe. This
Mm-hmm.
new technology that is to cancel out the sound of the mermaids,
Yeah.
of the wave sirens. And it just being silly thinking about that. But
Well, I gotta say, when I was getting super nerdy about some of the Greek elements in the muses, I learned that mermaids are associated more with the muse of dance, terpsichore. Specifically, mermaids are associated with terpsichore, and that sirens are more so associated to Melpomene, the muse of tragedy. And but I see that, and there's even another species in the mix here. It might come to me. Mermaids, sirens, probably whatever the snake-legged people are, the
mm,
snake-legged ones. I forget what that is called, but Ophi ophipods or something. I don't know. I don't really know. But yeah, there's different in the Greek systems. They're different, and they don't necessarily. They do have rivalries, but it's not like rock scissors paper. Like mermaids always beat sirens, and the snake people always get beat by the mermaids. I don't think it's like that, but there is a tension that seems important that we don't just conflate them and throw them all in the same category. Uh, and similarly, you're saying that the sirens in Europe don't sound like the sirens in America. And so I wonder if maybe there is a categorical correspondence. Like you found the call of a type of maybe the siren, and maybe America is maybe a mermaid knockoff, you know. I don't know. I'd have to really dig in on these.
that's pretty nerdy. I love it.
Isn't that nerdy? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But I will say this. Yeah, the theory's kind of solidifying. My opinion is starting to coagulate. Um, uh, I think in America, the lights that they use when you get pulled over are specifically designed to emulate a drowning scenario. And so what happens is you get some red and less red, more and more blue. Some red, less and more blue. A little bit of red, more and more blue. And so the more and more blue being repatterned is, oh, you're drowning. You're going underneath. And that's why they run the lights in the way that they do, is to make you think that you're, and so then of course your breath and your adrenaline, it consummates the presumption of drowning. You know, it's like, oh, I kind of feel like I'm drowning. And there's lights that are giving me very much the same signal. So with that in mind, as the American spell, I'd say maybe that maybe it is more mermaid-esque, and uh maybe the other category of siren, right? The other category of whatever creature lures uh, uh, unaware travelers to their doom. Yeah, maybe I'll suss out a little more on the difference. Maybe there's even sects of mermaids. Like some have a back fin and some don't have a back fin.
Yeah, yeah. The cryptidologists that are listening, please comment
Please.
below, and
Yeah.
we'll get in touch. um, I got one more thing on my list that I wanted to share here with you. Besides, like talking about the gourds, we've talked about, we didn't talk about grasses much, but wicker is kind of like that, but even like the simple reeds and the bamboo you mentioned, but that's like, the pan flute, but you have the simple reeds that you can use from grasses that make clarinets and saxophones and things like that. But this one right here, and this is something that I'm not super familiar with. I know that there's a lot of people who love this series of books, which is the Anastasia books, the Ringing Cedars of Anastasia. This is a whole religion or something, or cult or something.
Mhm.
Anastasianism, which is based off of these books. Are you familiar with this?
I have heard of it. And we started reading it a little bit in the flow state with the weaving spiders, but
Oh, really?
I never got very far into it. I know it is fascinating though.
Yeah, the premise is that, is it a fantasy, or is it a real life account? That's kind of like the ambiguity of it is what has made it into the popularity that it is now. But there's this fella named Vladimir Megre. I don't know how to say that, and I'm sorry I don't. But he goes off into the taiga, Siberian, northern part of Siberia in the woods, and meets a super goddess babe, and he's getting eaten by all the bugs, and she doesn't, and her name is Anastasia, and which is the word Anastasia means incorruptible, or you see the word stasis in Anastasia, so you could see from the Greek, above stasis or something like that. And the whole thing is that she's teaching him, and through him through his books, about this type of thing called the ringing cedars. And the type of plant it is called the Pinus siberica, or it's not actually a cedar at all. So it's a pine, it's a type of pine, but colloquially it's a cedar, the ringing cedar. And so what it is that they have this god whose name is Rod, and here's kind of like an image that they use to describe Rod. And this is where my inner Mario Garza comes in. I'm like, oh, this is the inner circle, everything pointing to the center here, right? And the dude's name is Rod. I mean, it's it's like, okay, and they're like up at the North Pole and everything like that. I'm like, okay, of course. And then it's a cedar, it's a tree, it's the tree of life, and all this stuff. Okay, so I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool, and also, I love what Mario talks about in his work too. So I saw that right away in the symbolism. But the one thing that I learned recently when I was in Italy is this this tree that's the it's a true cedar. So here in the United States, we have two different kinds of cedars. We have the eastern cedar and the western red cedar. But neither one of them are cedars. They're actually in the juniper tree. So I'm gonna nerdy. Okay. This one over here isn't actually a cedar either. It's a pine, but they call it cedar. I met finally for the first time a true cedar. And there's only two true cedars. One of them is the cedars of Lebanon, and the other is this one called the Himalayan cedar. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tree, gigantic, massive, super, super tall, definitely legendary to the point of like wanting to start a cult. But the botanical name of this cedar encodes what the word cedar encodes, which is God wood. So I want to kind of weave on cedar as God would. Okay, so the first part of that is in the word dur, as in cedar, dur. From that we hear maybe door, and the word door is connected specifically to another word for that we sometimes associate with the oak, and that comes from the Celtic word doer. The doer is in the Ogham or the Ogham language is sometimes called the oak tree. But it's not the tree. It's just kind of a stand-in for this concept. So just like this, in the YMCA stands in for the concept of the beginning, right? The word doer or an oak tree stands in for the concept of the door or the gateway. And this is also where we get the word durable, which is, synonymous with like the strength of an oak. And Excellent. It's the people of the door, the people of the oak that kept the gateway or the portal to heaven and earth that were called the Druids. So you get doer, druid, druid. So the Druids come from the doer in the cedar. So
that's cool.
Then, even the cedar itself, the word cedar is connected in Greek to kaifet and in Hebrew to kaifi. Cedar, kaifet, kaifi, and kaifi is the temple incense. So if you're in the book of Exodus, I'm a incense maker, as I've told you before. Another name I like to call myself is an incensier, and
that's hot stuff. That's hot stuff.
And the nerdy incensiers are going to be sincere about reading the 30th chapter of the book of Exodus, where it describes the temple incense. Like, this is what God wants. Okay. And if you make it and you don't burn it to God, then you are fucked up. You're like, you're going to go to hell. Like, this is for God. And it's called kaifi. And another name for saying that is like cedar, like God's wood. So, and then there's specific parts and everything like that. And I'm like, I wonder if they're just trying to make this thing cedar. Okay. So the botanical name of the Himalayan cedar is Chedrus, which you hear cedar, Deodar, Chedrus deodar. So in that you can hear, actually, it basically becomes the same word twice. And here it is. We already saw how dar and dur in the deodar is the door or the cedar, okay? But then deo in Himalayan, it's, we're talking about the Latin name Chedrus deodar, but that comes from the Sanskrit name Devudar.
Yeah, man.
And even in Latin, deo. So how do we get cedar from deo into cedar? And this is where the philological chops come in. D can also be zeodar. Zeodar can be seodar, and seodar is cedar. It could also be keodar. So cedar means God wood, just like deo, daru, deo, dur means God wood, and so Chedrus deodar is God wood. So the ringing cedars, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the godwood. That's the rod. That's the rodwood.
Man, I love that. I love that. It's like you had to test all the wrong trees. You had to
Yeah.
like walk in. Oh no, that's juniper. I guess I thought it was cedar. No, no. Okay, no, that's still also. Oh, this is true cedar. And then the words and the language of it in the lesson. Wow,
Yep, and then it's
excellent.
just Sadaharu, oh, home run with that one. It's
That is
true because
great.
because because it's always like, oh, the cedar is the tree of life, and I recognize that across cultures. You know, in this Samish people and the Northwest that had the totem poles and everything like that. You could see how that stands in as a central axis, and then also
Yeah,
you make your canoes, and it's like the thing that supports life and everything like that.
yeah, man, that's
Um,
brilliant.
yeah.
Um,
So that's and then of course resin, the resonating plant is high in resin. So that's the godwood. And I think it's really interesting because like, you know, the cedar, a bundle of cedar wrapped up like a smudge, and you could smell that. And now at this point, like I feel like I'm just crossing senses and with the frequency, with the frequency of light into the frequency of sound, or this frequency of sound and the frequency of light and the frequency of smell, and all the different vibrations that are really just emanating the same force, you know, the same thing. And that's what cedar can be a teacher of.
yeah, man. You know, I'm I'm inspired to mention a very musical, a magical musical instrument that I have loved for a long time. It's from the Basque country, and the Basque culture. They're highly um, they're into their trees. They are really into their trees, kind of like the people of Norway are also. I think of Norway is like stoic, like much like a Hoosier is born with a basketball in their hand. People in Norway are born with big sticks and soft walking in their nature. And in the land of the Basque, they're very much. There's some remote territories that are still holding on to old ways, and they have a traditional regional musical instrument. It's called the teleparta. And the teleparta is the original xylophone. And so the best thing for me to convey the image into your mind is to use the word xylophone. However, in Basque tradition, this type of a xylophone, it is all wooden pieces.
Hmm.
I think that the type of wood might be very important. And in fact, maybe there's a type of wood that they don't tell outsiders about. You know, maybe every teleparta that we've seen as outsiders is a knockoff of what God would like to hear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe we don't even have an example of what the perfect teleparta is made out of. And maybe they keep that for for the special click. And we get teleparters made out of all types of wood, but maybe there's a type of wood that really pleases the higher senses, we'll say, especially with the right incense burning.
Yeah, man, that's brilliant. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, my man, I've
Yes.
had so much fun talking about plants with you. I am stoked to see you at the Elementals gathering, and I'm just stoked to be a friend and to just be able to guide my thoughts back and forth with you over the internet. But really appreciate you, and thanks so much for taking the time to just nerd out with me about something that I wanted to talk about, but I also wanted to hear your thoughts on too. So.
Yeah, my friend. Absolutely. It's a joy and a pleasure every time. I'm so excited about the elementals gathering. This is so magical. Yeah. So many loving souls coming together for the big hug, for one real big solid hug. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Right on, my man. Well, have a great one. And thanks to everyone in the audience for making it this far, too. And we will see you on the next one. Ciao.
Much love, y'all.